Hi and welcome to section 6 of the Introduction to the Economy of Saudi Arabia and the Other GCC Countries. This section is titled The Education and Labor Market. As always, please see section 0 for the purpose, outline, and disclaimer if you are joining us for the first time. I am Eric William Wellstrand. Education in Saudi Arabia has historically been quite poor. To sum it up, they educate people with the wrong skill set for the modern economy. Outsiders such as myself will naturally focus on the high content and religion in all layers of the education. Female education has always been a touchy subject in the country. It is a religious issue, of course. All in total, this means that the education has been, like I said again, it's from an outside point of view, quite poor. Currently, the government spends 30% of the budget on education, or 40 billion US dollars. That's a high number, and I must point out the picture is not all gloomy. There's been a lot of change in recent years, a lot of good change. A lot of this a lot of credit for this should go to the current King Abdullah. There are 24 government universities in Saudi Arabia now, many of whom have been established recently and in a remarkable short time span. One example is KAUST, King Abdullah University of Science and Tech. It was set up in 2009 and everything is done in English. It turns out the engineers and researchers this country sorely needs. I would like to point out that I am an engineer educator myself and therefore might be partially biased. You might ask, how do they recruit professors? How do they build institutions so quickly? Actually, it's cash is the quick answer to that. Saudi pays among best in the world for academics. The reason is, like everything else in their economy, they import people to do most of their work. And they're also building these universities so quick that they don't have time to train the whole population. It takes time to make professors, for instance. And also, of course, this being Saudi Arabia, there's strict religion, it's warm, it's in the middle of the desert, and basically most renowned professors in the world would not want to move here. Of course, to exaggerate a little bit, but to make my point, everybody has a price. If you give any professor in the world an unlimited research budget, he will most likely move. I'm not saying they're giving professors unlimited resource budgets here, but this is how they're sort of recruiting professors. And of course, KAUST, as much as I like it, it's not MIT yet. There's a long way to go. But they have come far in a very short time span. Newly, they opened up for international students at all universities. Remember, university is free for Saudi nationals, and they have excellent benefits for Saudi nationals wanting to study abroad. I'll talk a little about that first. In 2005, King Abdullah implemented a government scholarship program to send young Saudi nationals to Western universities for undergraduate and postgraduate students. The program offers funds for tuition and living expenses for up to 4 years. In the academic year of 2007 to 2008, there was an estimated 5,000 students received this scholarship. Since then, it has ballooned. This is coming from a different source, but it said that Saudi Arabia spends roughly 6 billion this year on foreign studies scholarships for almost 200,000 students and family members, its finance minister said. This is part of a huge public spending program being rolled out amid turmoil in the wider Middle East. It is hard for me to confirm this number, but I can point out that I recently had lunch with the head of the education attaché from New Zealand. He told me that New Zealand by themselves have roughly 7,000 students studying there. Like I said earlier, there's no doubt in my mind that much of the credit for modernizing the education system should go to King Abdullah. Personally, I have another theory as well that some of the terror bombings in the early 2000s changed the attitude of this country in many ways. In the past, Saudi had been a haven for radical teachers who often came to Saudi Arabia when their governments cracked down on them domestically. And many of these people were invited to Saudi and also invited to teach. And the religious establishment still is very influential when it comes to developing the curriculum, but less so than in the past. Yes, there has been terror attacks before, the Khobar bombings in '96. We had the seizing of the mosque in Mecca in '79. So you might say that my theory is a little bit shaky, but I feel that 2000 forced them to look at a education system in a different way, especially one that is basically controlled by the religious establishment. Interesting enough, the bombings in '79 had the opposite effect. It changed the educational system, or at least the whole country, basically into a more conservative route. Well, I believe these bombings in 2000 changed the view, or at least to some extent, helped change the educational system to what it is today. Anyway, despite all the reforms, things are not not gloomy. Or I mean, sorry, are not all rosy yet. Around 70% still study humanities, which includes religion. Religion makes up a large part of education. It is still mandatory for any university degree. You'll have religion as part of it. If you're a biochemist, you'll still have mandatory religious courses. Before I round off, I must say that with all the criticism I give here is my own personal belief. It's like I said, it's not has nothing to do with the Norwegian embassy. I and I do understand that Saudi Arabia is a deeply religious country, and there might not be much. I'm not saying there's large opposition in the broader populace against this current system. Just from my Western point of view, it doesn't seem right.